Hey guys, welcome to my tutorial for making polygonal hair. And what I've got right here is just a character from one of my video games projects I'm working on, and he just has very simple hair. In terms of the geometry, it's not that. It's just for the for the purpose of this tutorial. I thought it would be good to just use simple hair instead of going a little bit more advanced. But you can just look at it first, just see how I've created this. What I've got is these. This is the sideburns. Then I've got this little front part of the bangs, and then I've just duplicated the sideburns and just added a little bit more, just to fill it out a little bit more. Now, as for the top piece, it's actually really simple. I can hide the head here, and you can see that I've basically got different sides of the shape. Let's say I've got this area here, and you can see how it's kind of pushing out, and it's like a concave surface. And then it's the same thing on this side, and then beneath the hair there's this big mass here that represents the back of his head when viewed from the just the inside of his. If you call it, let's just call it a wig for now. Let's just call it a wig. This is like the inside of a wig. So his hair piece is this is one section of the face, and this is another section. If you want to look at the UVs, that's actually how I separated it as well. So this will probably make more sense if I look at it from this side. You can see I've got this area separated here, and then this hair is right here, and then this is the whole, basically the whole top back piece, and then down here is just this what you see from the front here, and this area is this thing. So it's very simple to do this kind of hair, and I think that everyone has their own way of modeling, and the way I model is I just start with faces and I start extruding out from faces, and I guess in my head I sort of have an idea of what I'm going to do already. But here's some of the prep work you have to do. Let's take this. And move it over. We'll take these as well and move it over. So let's say you've got your character's head, and the first thing you have to make sure you do is, when you do model your character, you got to make sure that the topology is favorable, so that you can work on the hairpiece. Because like even this, I didn't do a very good job of this, but at least that I have a general hairline. I would have liked for a line from here to up here and here to connect, but I painted this after, so I didn't actually have an idea of where that hairline was going to be until I started painting the texture on. And this texture is painted using ZBrush, because it's a lot simpler than just mapping it out manually and trying to draw this character's face. And so when you got your hair piece on, you want to make sure that that topology here of the head, you can see that it lines up with the like seamlessly, so when you're looking around the head, you don't really see through it, because it's basically touching it. And if you go to high quality rendering, some things might not look properly, but you can see it's also normal mapped, which is these bumps in the hair, and that's done in ZBrush as well. I just basically use a rake brush to go through it and just give it some texture. And it's going to be more subtle in the game engine, but this is how Maya renders it by default. So you just want to make sure that you get that all covered, that prep work out of the way. Make sure you get good workable topology on your head, and then you want to make sure it follows the hairline. So we'll just get started right away now. Sorry for taking so much time talking about that. Let's move this out of the way. So let's say I have this hairpiece. I'll just use this as an example to look at, because it's right here. No point in going up and looking. You can Google any image and you can generally just guess what it's going to look like. But what I'll do is, let's say I'll go into the four-sided view, and what I got is I'll just start with a plane like that, and I'll just do this. And you can see that I've got this floating piece of geometry here, and it's just one square, and that's how I like to start with everything. So let's say I've got this guy here, and I've got this one piece of square in front of his head. What I want to do is turn on wireframe unshaded so I can see this topology, because that's where I'm going to start from. And I'll select this piece, I'll right click and I'll go to vertex, and then I have these vertexes here, and I'll just select one for now. So in Maya, when you hold V, you can see that this changes. Whenever I'm holding V, this changes to a circle. So I can see I'm tapping on and off. But anyways, I'll just hold V for now, and I make sure I press W so I'm in the move tool. So when I'm W, I'm in the move tool, and I'm holding V. So now I'm holding V, now I'm clicking and dragging it, and you see it snaps to the vertices on the head. And this is why it's good to have topology that matches your hairline, because you can get started right away just snapping it to your hairline. So now you can see I've got this topology here, and it's rooted now. Now, now you wonder, like, what do you snap this to, right? You can look here. What I did was I originally snapped this here, and then you've got a corner up here and a corner here, and that was probably just tweaked manually by my hand. But if you want to just get it over quickly, you can snap this here and just push it up, and you can snap this one to this one and just push it up, so that they're already aligned. You can see that we've already got the inside. Now this stuff needs to push out a bit, because his hair there's a ridge that's created by these two shapes, and they're pushed outwards from both the root area and from these faces. So now that I've got this one part of the head here, I'm just going to tweak it a little bit, but what I can do from here is I can take this side and I can extrude it out, and I just do this like this. I just extrude it and then I pull it out to the right, and now we've got a connected face. And what I'll do is I'll go back to vertex mode, I'll click on this, press W to change to move mode, hold V, and then snap it here. And then I'll do the same thing with this. I'll snap it here, but then I'll move it up, and then I'll just push it out. So now, and I don't have the double-sided faces on. I like to turn it off. It's called backface culling, and I don't like that, because then it confuses you and you can mess up your normals. So I just turn it off, and I make sure I only work on one side, and that's with all my shapes. I always do that. So because normals, especially in games, like, they can get flipped around and they can be all strange. And normals refer to kind of like the orientation of the faces and how they smooth when they're connected. So now what we've got is we've got these two faces here covered, and normally I wouldn't be looking at the wireframe, because this is kind of simpler, because I've already did the work. But it's not going to be much different if you just like look up on the internet and find the hairline and just match it along along the wireframe. So I'll take this one, edit mesh, extrude, click, press W to turn it to move mode, hold V, and just snap it there. Sometimes it might snap to the back of the head, because if we X-ray it, there are vertices on the back of the head. You might snap it like that all the way to the back. So you want to make sure you rotate it every now and then, just to make sure you're not accidentally doing that. So as you can see, we already got this here, and I'm going to push it in a little bit. Now you see this is Now if you get this far, and you notice that this shape here is squeezing a little bit. Now what you want to do is, see if you follow this topology here, the line goes this way and then it goes, and then you might want to follow the same direction, following this line up. And same thing with here, you'd want to try to follow the same direction. That way you have good proportions in your faces. So let's just say that's one part of the hair done. If I want to make it as tall as this guy's hair, you can just go up, like what I did here, you can just select all these faces, and then you can just extrude all of them. So look, I just extruded here. Now push it out a little bit, because there's a general curve here, you know. If I don't push it out, if I just extrude it upwards, it's going to go straight up like this. So as you see, it goes along this line and then it goes straight up. So I'll just push it up so I can match the curve of this hair, and then it looks more gradual, it looks smoother, right? So it's not perfect, but it's close enough just for this tutorial. You might want to adjust these too. You might want to see, if you look at them from this angle, it's kind of a abrupt corner, so you might want to just smooth that out as well. But you know, you do that in your own discretion. So I'm not going to do this exactly like this hair, but I'm just going to do as much as necessary to show how to get from one part to the next. So I've got this part now, and you know, just remember this would actually be your own group of normals. For example, right now when you're building polygons in Maya, it doesn't automatically UV map them, and UV mapping is probably one of the second most important parts of making poly hair, because you have to make sure that all your normals are in proper, all your UVs are in proper groups, and they have enough distribution and space so that you can draw the hair strands in them properly. So what I would normally do for just this part of hair is I would just take a camera projection of this point right now that I've got, and I'd make sure I'd have the right faces selected, and then I'd just create UVs based on the camera, and then I'd have this, and then I would just make sure that I can redistribute them. If I wanted to make it simpler for myself in the texturing process, I could stretch these out and make a rectangle. You know, make them perpendicular in this way. And I'd even make them more even. I could select all these, and I could align them like that. Just press, see? And then what you've got is essentially all you gotta do is just draw straight lines, and then your hair will automatically curve anyways, because this model is already curved, right? But the normals are just a straight line. This is basically like a straight strand of hair, and this is it curving in your scene. So that would simplify making the texture for it. But I don't really have to focus on that, because now I just use ZBrush to do texturing. Oh, I think it's crashing. Okay, so that crashed. I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back where we left off. So I don't like to use Maya's UV mapper, because sometimes it crashes, and that usually has to do with like stuff like the history and all that other stuff. But normally you kind of figure out how to work and not cause that to happen. But for the most part, I don't even worry about it anymore, because I just use ZBrush. And if you don't use ZBrush, I would recommend trying out ZBrush, because even though it might be difficult to use the first day you jump into it, once you have some kind of tutorial on how to use it, then you'll get really used to it, and it'll be really easy to use. So continuing where we left off, I'll just select this edge now. So now what I'm doing is I'm working on this part of the hair, and what I would do is I would just take this side now, and I'm making it connected, right? I'm just gonna extrude it out, and I'm just gonna do what I did before. Just press the vertex, click on the vertex, press W, hold V, and then snap it in here. And then I would continue doing that a lot of times. And I'm not really worrying right now about the orientation, I'm just getting this part done first. And this is how I model my characters too. I basically do it from face to face. I don't box model, and I don't use NURBS or anything. I don't even really sculpt in ZBrush. This is my preference. I don't make high poly characters, but if I wanted to do high poly characters, it wouldn't be that difficult. I would just I would low poly first, and then I would probably just subdivide it, and then just put in details. I would probably just use ZBrush. It would be easier. ZBrush is really good for handling the details, because you can export them as normal. For a game, it's really expensive to have so many polygons, so what you can do is in ZBrush you can subdivide it, and then you can create a normal map which creates all the bumps for your low poly model. So you would just basically be taking all the details from the high polygon model and then put it on your low poly model, and then in your game it would run smoothly. So once I've got this here, you can see this is one side of the hair piece, right? What I'm going to do is I create this kind of a let's call it a curtain. So this hair here, what I want to do is I want to go from the root and just create all of this curtain down to the side of the face. So what I'm going to do is, there's two ways to do this. The long way is just to extrude in this way, like this, and just continue gradually just extruding until you create the whole curtain, right? But you know, just to simplify it, I could just do this as well. I could pull this all the way down here, and I could see where his hair kind of comes back here, and it covers the ear a little bit. And we'll just put it in front of the ear. Don't worry if it pops through. But see, we'll just set it up like this, and now what we've got is essentially this long plane coming from the top of the root to the bottom of these flap of hair. And you know, instead of doing each of these progressively, which I did do it this way, I extruded here, because I prefer to have more manual control over things. What you can do is you can just set the these two parts here, and you can go edit mesh and add divisions. And let's say in this hair flap, there's from up here it's 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. That means it's 5 faces. So in the V, I would just change it to 5, and then it should divide it and create, as you can see here, it divided it with 4 lines and created 5 divisions. So that would simplify the whole process of, and you can just double click these edges to select the edge loop, and now I'm just gonna now with those selected, I just press W and then I pull them out, and then what I can do is I can just do this and just tweak it like this, and this will simplify that part of the process. And then hide, and then just do this. Now you're wondering why I only took 3 instead of all 4, and that's because, well, you could do that this way, or you can do it you could do it with 4, but then the way you would connect, you'd have to worry about connecting from here, from these points to this point, right? And I created with 3 because I like to my preference for connecting them is to append the polygon, because it's a lot simpler, I think. But some people might want to, if you created 4, let's say, just say you did create 4 and you have another point out here, you would snap it to this one, but then you'd have to like rotate the camera in such a way that you only select these. You have to hold and select these 2 vertices, and then you go edit mesh, and then you go merge or merge to center, and just depending on what kind of merge you need, you just merge them together. That's one way of doing it. But my way of doing it is if I just do it this way, then it's just easier. I just go append to polygon tool, and append to polygon is really important the way I model, because I go from face to face. If I'm creating these sections and I have gaps here, I can just click here, and then press enter, and then they're connected now, and I didn't have to create this face. I didn't have to merge the vertices together. And see, as you can see here, I have a problem here. I have an extra vertice here, but I have these faces here. So what I can do is I can just hold these, and I can do what I did before. I can add division, and then I can just divide it into 2 along the V. And sometimes it's U or V. Maya doesn't really know which direction it's going, so you can always just undo it and then change it if you have to do in the other division direction. So now I can just do this. See, if I added division, I could move it so that it kind of matches the section. Then I could just edit mesh, append to polygon tool, edit mesh, append to polygon tool, edit mesh, append to polygon tool. So those are connected. Now over here, it's a little bit more complicated. But what I like to do is, let's say you're at this point, and you want to create this part. So right here, it's this strand of hair comes down, and first there's two faces, and then it's a sharp turn, because hair is sharp. Hair is just a little single strand, and they eventually meet up and become one little sharp corner. So you want to create this here. Now my way of doing that would be, I would select this one, and then I would go edit mesh, and what I would do is I would append between these 2 sides, and what it would do is create a triangle. And triangles aren't always good in models. You just want to make sure you have quads whenever you can. Sometimes you can't. In video game models, it doesn't really matter, because they're all going to become triangles anyways. But generally, for working with your model, you want to make sure you use quads, and then it'll make everything simpler when you transfer between other programs or use certain tools. Anyways, this is still a triangle. So I've got 1, 2, and 3 sides. I want to make it into a quad. What I will do is I will edit mesh, and I will use the split tool. And this is something I just discovered kind of by accident. But generally, you can just go, where is it? I'm just trying to find the split tool. Can't remember where I put it. Yeah. Okay, interactive split tool, that's what it is. Probably changed because I had the face selected. So interactive split tool, it's just select what you want and go interactive split tool. So now what this does is, in Maya 2013, it snaps to corners. Sometimes you might press something and then snapping won't work properly. I honestly don't know how to fix that, but right now what it does is it snaps to corners, and it snaps to halfway points, and I like that. I like the fact that it does that in Maya 2013 now. I used to use an older version of Maya, and it didn't do that. You kind of just had to like slide along the line and kind of guess where the middle was. But this makes it simpler, because look, I can just choose the halfway point between this triangle here. And what a split tool normally is for is, you can split a polygon too. So let's say I select this point as the starting point, and then I could choose another point to split, and now I have 2 triangles here. But that's not what I want to do this time around. What I want to do is I want to create a quad, and I have, out of a triangle, I have this triangle here. I'll just select here, and I'll press enter. And it won't look like it done anything, but if you press vertex, you'll have another vertex there now, and now you can make it into now it is a quad, and I could also pull this out, and I can make a sharp edge to this guy's hair. And also from there, I can edit mesh, append to polygon tool, and I select from here to here, and now you've got this part almost completed. So from here, you can just edit mesh upon the polygon tool again, and you just go from here to here, and once again we have a triangle, and we don't want a triangle, so you just interactive split tool, split there, press enter, you can move the vertex out, and now what we've got is hair that's generally just one flap, and this is what it looks like. And it's just like this guy's over here. And you could just tweak this around. It's probably not a good idea to do this, to move these around in perspective view, because you don't really have a grasp on where it's moving sometimes. So it's usually good to use 4-sided views, but just for the purpose of the tutorial, I'm just going to tweak it fast. So now we've got this flap of hair on one side, and you can see that from here it kind of becomes this sort of mullet shape. What I want to do now is, let's say I want to do the other side of his hair. So there's two ways to do this. One way is you can just duplicate this to the other side, and it'll save you a lot of time. And then you can just tweak it to make it a little bit different. If it is mirrored on the other side, you can save yourself a lot of time but you could do it again as well. But for the purpose of the tutorial, I'm not going to repeat that process. So I'll just show you how to duplicate on the other side. What you want to do is, see this face. This isn't its original position. When I first created the first plane, it was out there somewhere. I pulled it out and I snapped it here. So over here, it has a memory of where it moved, and these translation points are where it's moved in space. If I just left the face where it was originally, it would be 0, 0, 0, and if I snapped from there, the translate points wouldn't have moved. But since I did move it, it's not the same. So what I can do is what I can do right now is I can freeze transformations, and what this does is it sets all the current values as its default position. So I froze the transformation now, and then you can see everything's zeroed up. These values don't actually change when you're editing in this mode. Like if you move vertexes or edges, those values don't change. Let's see, I moved these faces out, and then I select this object. You can see that this value doesn't change. But if I took this whole object itself and I moved it, then it would change. So you can see I'm moving it in x-axis and it's changing. But anyways, what you want to do is freeze the transformation first, so that it's all zeroed out, and this will help you later on. And then what you want to do is reset transformations after doing that. And what reset transformations essentially does is it moves the this origin point, which is this is where you the center pivot is basically where your object calculates its transformations from. So if I rotate it, it's going to rotate around this point. You can see it's there's like a huge line connecting this thing, and it's rotating from that point. Right? If you wanted to, you could center the pivot, like a modify center pivot, and now the pivot is at the exact center of this shape. So now when I rotate it, it's going to rotate like that. But for the purpose of mirroring to the other side, and you could just mirror geometry, that's one way of doing it, but I'll just do it this way for now. I'll just reset transformations, I'll edit, and then I'll duplicate special. And what I want to do is I'll make a copy, and then just leave all these at 0, but the scale, let's say you want to mirror left and right, then you would change this to -1, and then just click apply, and now you can see it's mirrored perfectly, and it has the same pivot point in the center. So if you were to duplicate without this part reset here, then it would not put it on the exact opposite side of the head. So this is this face mirrored. Now right away I noticed that there's not enough of a gap here. So let's say I want to make them not exactly the same on both sides, so I'm just gonna move this out, and right now I'm just I want to select all these edges, so I just select this edge, and I'll select this edge, and in between it, I'll double click, and you just double check to make sure that it's only selected the edges you wanted, and then what I can do is I can slide it out here, and I can do the same thing with this. So now it's not symmetrical. Symmetrical hair looks really funny sometimes, and people aren't symmetrical. So now I can tweak this, and then now it doesn't really even look like I mirrored it. It looks different. It looks like a different section of hair. Now, in the case of this character, you can see that this bottom section, this under flap of hair, which appears here, you can see it's under the hair. It's different on this side. It's in fact, it's not even, it doesn't use as many faces. So what I can do is I can just modify it here, and I can just pull this out here, and I can pull it down as well, and then I can just modify all these edges just to make it match up. And of course, we have a problem here where this is we got to pull this out from wherever it was rooted from. So I'm just tweaking this up. You don't have to do this. This is just a creative decision. But there you go. And then now I've got this problem here. I'm just going to append a polygon. And now I created a triangle, and I don't want a triangle, so I'll interactive split. And I could just leave it there if I like the shape of it, but I don't want a triangle. So I could just leave it there. It's actually a quad now. I can just accept that and move on. But I'll just move it out just because I want to make it a curve. So now we've got these two flaps of hair, right? It's kind of got this Leon Kennedy look from Resident Evil. And this under area, I just pull it in a little bit. So now we've got the beginning of hair. It's kind of like a... Now you notice that under here you can see through the faces, and how you would fix that is you would just I guess I'll show you right now. You could just take the bottom edge here, you could edit mesh, and you could extrude it out, and this time you would pull it up and inwards. So now you have this geometry here, and then you have a gap here. You can just append a polygon to that. Append. So now you have this flap here. So now when the head is, so now when someone's looking from this angle, they can't really see through the hair. Up here, you notice they can, right between the ears here. And well, how you would fix that is, if you remember the topology from earlier, you would just take this and you would snap it to points on the head so that it's flush against the head. So now there's absolutely no way they can see through it. So you can see it's snapped to sections of the hair. I'll just go into shading X-ray because it'll be easier to deal with. Oh. So I've got that. You can see that now it's flush against the head and you can't see through this flap of hair except for here. But we can create that in another section of hair as well. Or we can just cover it with the sideburns, which is probably what I did here. And to create these sideburns, it's basically the same thing. I can just do it really quickly just to show you. But let's say you go into 4 view and I want to create a plane here. And I'll just pull it out. And you would do the same thing, just in this view, just turn on the wireframe and shaded, select the point, snap it to wherever his sideburns begin, and then from here on you can just pull this out. And this depends on the direction of his sideburns too. I did sideways sideburns for this because I wanted him to have the kind of a wingy look because he's a pilot, right? And then from here you can just extrude, edit mesh, extrude, and you're just creating the general shape of his hair. You don't have to worry about it, how solid of a piece it is. So I'll just turn on X-ray, and I can root this point. Just select this vertex, press W, hold V, snap it here, and then I can keep going higher as well. So I can select this, edit mesh, extrude, and let's just move on because I think that's pretty straightforward. But you can just do that, and you can see you can't see through the hair now, right? It's just perfectly covered, and you can just modify it however you want. The no hair is perfect, and there's no point in making hidden geometry that's not going to be shown anyways because you're trying to save on your game resources. And you can see here it's so simple. This hair, this is geometry, but I've got transparency here, and that's done in Photoshop. What I do is I generally just create kind of a cheap kind of cut into the hair, and I'll create an alpha layer which tells that this part is transparent. And that's why, even though it's a big flat piece, like let's say I turn off the textures, see it's just this flat piece, but you know, when you turn on the textures, it looks like kind of a little bit more complicated hair. And you know what I can do with this is I can do the same thing as before. I can duplicate it to this side, you know, modify freeze transformation, modify reset transformation, edit. And since I've already set the values in there, I don't have to look into it, but it might be a good idea to be safe. But there's always an undo button, so I can just go duplicate special, and there it is, right? And it's on the other side now. And of course, I've got this problem here where I can see through on this side, and I can just do what I did on the other side. I can select these faces. I can select the main hairpiece, edit edge, and I'll just select all these edges, and I'll go edit mesh, extrude, press W, and you know, whenever you press extrude, you always press the transformation control you want to use first, because if you just start extruding for some reason, it's going to have like all the wrong pivots and stuff. So you want to make sure you press W before you start doing anything. If you're going to move them, you press W. If you're going to rotate it, press E. If you're going to, or E is probably, if you're going to rotate it, you press R. And you know, you got to press those buttons before you start trying to transform, because the pivots will be all wrong. You just press it once and it'll reset it. So now we got this here. I'll edit mesh, append to polygon tool, and I'll do this here. And I don't really like the way that looks, but we'll just live with it for now. Yeah, so it's not exactly all the way through, so you can still see through the hair. So I might want to go up another layer. You know, edit mesh, and what I'll do is append here. I missed a face here, so I missed an edge, but I can just fix that easily. What I'll do is interactive split tool first, and I'll turn this into a quad because I like quads, and then what I'll do is just append between these 2 points. So now, you can't see through the head. Well, you can here. What I'll do is I'll just take this vertex, and I'll click it, press W, hold V, and I'll snap it to the head. And I'll do the same thing here. You might want to X-ray it. It's kind of sloppy. Let's try to make sense of the topology here. really bad. Okay. See, one point went out all the way over there. So, for the most part, it should be concealed. And I snapped to the face. This one's kind of out. So I'll just snap it here. That's the closest point that's available, and that's because of topology. Okay, so here we are. Now it should be sealed. That's what we call it. So now we got the front part of the head done. And what we want to do is start working on the rest of the hair. Now the bottom part, you don't have to worry about the inside yet. And for the back, let's say we're just gonna find a starting point. Now what I like to do is, now we need to connect these two heads, right? So what I want to do is select both these objects. You can see they're both selected. Okay, just press F to focus on it. Okay, and then what I do is I go Mesh Combine. So now they're one piece and you can manipulate them together, whereas before you can only manipulate them one at a time and separately. But see, I can press Edge, and before I can only do it on one side at a time, but now they're one piece of geometry, so I can select both sides here, Edit Mesh, and I'll extrude them outwards. And now you can, now we have to make sure that these two sides are connected. See that you can see that these two faces are separate. See, they're not connected. But what I can do is I can select these. I can either select this vertex and this one, and I can go Edit Mesh, and I can merge to center. And what it'll do is it'll center them on each other. The very center point between them in 3D space. It'll just push them together, and now they're stuck as one piece. And if you go Edit Mesh and go Append to Polygon Tool, Append to Polygon Tool, it thickens the lines around the geometry where they're kind of separated, and you can see parts of the geometry are separated. For example, the line here is thicker, and that's because these were two separate pieces that we combined, but we never merged the edges together. You can do that by merging the vertices between them. For example, if I did this, I selected this vertex here. These ones we already merged to center. Well, these ones we didn't, and what I can do is I can merge them because they're touching, or I can just merge to center. And then now when I go Edit Mesh, Append to Polygon Tool, you can see the thickness is just like this one, whereas this is thicker, and these are separate lines here. But now they're connected as one piece, and this is the point that connects them. Yep. So this goes to a vertex. So I'm just going to tweak this a little bit, move it down. I just want to, and I'll probably select, so I'll keep this rooted here, because this is the root of the hair. And from here, what I can do is, I can do what I did before when I created the first curtain of hair. I can Edit Mesh, Extrude, and I can pull it all the way down here. I can just pull it down and then pull it out, and you could kind of create the section of hair where it's going to be. You could even widen it out. I'm not too worried about making it symmetrical, but some people might be, and you know, if you've gotten this far, it shouldn't be that difficult. You could alternatively just do one side of the hair without doing what I did originally, where I made one side and then I mirrored it already. What you can do is you can just finish the whole one side of this hair and go around the back and create the mullet. But we're just doing it this way because we've already started. And then what I can do is just add divisions now, and it creates one division. Now you notice I didn't create as much divisions as I did before, but that was because before I already knew how many divisions I needed. Well, I was close at least. But what you can do is start with one. You can pull this out where you think it's supposed to be. Generally outside of the head is a good idea. And then you can go select these faces, add the divisions, edit, just go to the edge mode, just double click those, and now you can just move these outside the head. And you just keep doing this until you create a general shape for the hair. Now, at this point, I can start to line up the information. So you can see over here, directly opposite of here, I have 3 divisions, and over here I have 2 divisions compared to 1. So I can select these faces and go edit mesh, and I can add division, and I'll just set it to 2. So now it's going to be easy for us to merge them together. And over here I'll select these and I'll change it, and I'll add divisions. Edit mesh, add divisions, and I'll change it to 3. And over here, it's whatever we want to do, because there is no opposite geometry that we have to worry about. Since there's 2 edges here, I could tweak them manually, or I can just select the whole face and just do this. So you can see we've already kind of gotten pretty far. Obviously from here, all we have to do is just I'm just going to pull this out a little bit, and what I'm going to do is rotate it slightly so that because you hear we pulled this out here. I'm just going to rotate it slightly so we can maintain this nice curve here. And then from here I can edit mesh, and I can extrude again, and I can rotate it, and I will want to rotate it like that. And the reason you want to do this is because, well, it's really important. So you want to create this first. If you want to create more divisions, well, you kind of have to figure that out later, but I don't think you would really need that because we're just doing a low poly model. So now with that done, I can edit mesh, and I can append a polygon all these sides here. And luckily here we've got a hole here, and it's already a quad, which is a good thing because we want 4s. And we can just continue. Now we have this big gap here. What I'm going to do is just append to polygon here, and interactive split it. Hopefully you've been following along, you already know how to do it. And then we can just tweak. Now that we got this one side of the head done, we can just tweak this so that it's the right shape, because we were just moving it out before, and we weren't really paying attention to where it was going. But you can just tweak these individually and make sure to keep the edges nicely distributed. Make sure they're rotated properly. Notice I have a weird quad here where it's kind of bent out of shape. I don't really like that because it kind of forces this, it basically turns this into 2 triangles. So I just want to make it sure that it's up like that. And here I have a zigs here, whereas it could be just a smoother transition between them. And you would just do this for your whole model, just try to create better lines and better distribution of these of this faces. This is kind of funny. This face, it was dark. I think you noticed there's something weird about it. Sometimes this happens when you're appending to polygon tool. For some reason, it just does something weird and appends out to the middle of nowhere. So you just redo it. Usually you notice it right away though. There, so that's proper face. And then you could just do the same for the other side. Edit mesh, extrude. We're not going to worry about making this look good because we're just going to finish it. Just trying to show you how to finish this part of it. So I'll just append this right now. So we'll just do the same thing we did on the other side. Append to polygon tool, all these sides. There are other tools that simplify this process as well in Maya, but I just do everything manually because I think that the fastest way to get something done is just to start doing it. So I append this. I append this. Interactive split tool. You can just tweak this. That's not necessary right now. So you can see we got general shape of the hair going. And now you can see that it's kind of a bit helmet head because even over here I have it winged out a bit. So let's just lower it down to compensate. And what we're going to do is something really simple. Is we're going to select all these faces. So I hold face and I can just drag across the faces I want. And I just look around to be sure that I only select the faces I want. And what we'll do is, as before, we'll just add division, and we'll just divide it into 2. So now what we can do is just select the bottom edge, and we can I'll scale it out, because when I scale it out, if I just move it, it's just going to wing out in one direction. But if I scale it out, it'll go out in all directions. And then I could actually select these ones and kind of pull them inwards. So I have this, so it's less helmety and looks more like the hair is kind of coming over the back of his head, and then gravity pulls it down, and then the lightness of the edge of his hair follicles, just his hair, will curve upwards just because of the natural curve of his hair. So this is with smoothing mode on. You can see these are disconnected edges, so they create this nice crease here, and that's really important. But then everything else is smooth, right? So from here, what we have is we have this huge gap in the back of his head now. And what we're going to do for that is just do the same thing we did with the inside of the hair and the curtain, except this time we're just going to make it a little bit larger. So I'm just going to select all of the bottom faces here, edit mesh, extrude, and I'm going to pull them up, and they're going to up, and then I'll pull them in. And then I'll scale it inwards because I want it to be on the inside. And I'll just, so maybe I have to scale it this way as well. So now it looks like it's on the inside, right? And what I'll do is I'll pull this down because it's just going to make it easier. If I go like this, then what I have this problem was I have to append these two polygons together, and it's going to create a triangle. So I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I pull it down, and I'll create this small kind of a beginning part of his hair. and I'll extrude it again, edit mesh, extrude, and then I'll pull it up, and I'll line it up as I did before. And now when I append these two parts together, I'll even do it right now, what we have is a quad here. And let's see, I'll just hide these ears because they're getting in the way. But you can see these were here the whole time. So now you can see we've begun the inside of his hair. You really only have to do it maybe one more time. Edit mesh, extrude, pull it up. I'm just going to pull it all the way up. Now, maybe I shouldn't. Well, I'll just pull it around here. Then I'll just edit mesh, append to polygon tool. Edit mesh, append to polygon tool here. And this might be good enough for a lot of people. You know, there's no way you can see through this hair. Except, nope, you can see through it right here, as you can see. So what we have here is we've got a gap between this part of his hair and that part of his hair. And what I can do is I can take this point and I can see that, you know, I have to connect his hair here. What I can do is I can pull these points down and I can start connecting the hair from here to here. What I can do is simply I can just append here and here, and I'll create these triangles here. And of course we don't want triangles, so I'll just interactive split them. So now this is a quad, and I can just pull it out here. And over here I can interactive split this. And then I'll turn it out here as well. Over here I've got gap here. I might as well just put that together. There's probably a good reason that's there. Edit mesh, interactive split tool. And then now hopefully we don't see any gaps. It's kind of, it's still a gap here under the hair. Most likely no one will ever see that, but if you want to take care of it now, it's a good time to do it. So obviously it kind of seemed like we should have done that anyways. Right? Edit mesh, append to polygon tool, and over here edit mesh and append to polygon tool. And here we have this funky line that doesn't make any sense. It's probably because we had more detail than we should have. But yeah, you kind of see it. But at this point, the body's going to be in the way. So you want to save on your resources. You want to make sure that you're only adding more detail as necessary when you're making a game character. Another simple way is just to take this top part here, because this hair is not going to really be seen. What you can do is this: you can scale it inwards and push it in towards the head, and what that will do is perfectly just hide the geometry inside of the head, and then there will be no gaps, and that will be just fine enough. No one will ever see that. So here we go. We have essentially the completed hairpiece, and that's just the geometry of it.